Welcome to Community Chat for September 23rd. First off, the Xcode 12 and iOS 14 update real quick. If you have not tried the RC that we've been floating since the weekend, please do try it. We've found some other cases over the past couple days too that we're about to roll out some updates for as well. That includes the device handling. So if you've been running a NativeScript project against a device right now with Xcode 12, you probably got some type of a build failure where it couldn't connect or run the app on the device. That's related to the iOS device lib that's used in the CLI that we have a PR posted for now. And we are planning to release that this afternoon and probably bump out one more RC. So we'll probably do another day of RC on the CLI just to flush anything else remaining there. But certainly if you're developing with Xcode 12 and iOS 14, you should be able to install the RC of the NativeScript CLI globally and be able to develop just fine. And then once we get that final release out, which we're hoping to have it released by tomorrow afternoon or Friday for the final CLI to have the device lib, I think, updated there. So that is the update on Xcode 12 and iOS 14. There's also some other interesting cases we saw related to pods in general. So if anyone has any issues in their projects with Cocoa pods and Xcode 12, ping on this issue that's mentioned here. This is the Xcode 12 status issue that's on the repo. And there's been some great communication there, and we definitely would like to hear if anyone else is experiencing CocoaPod things. We actually did experience a similar one on an internal project ourselves related to CocoaPods that was related to a target build configuration in the pod file in the project that was manually modifying the CocoaPod build settings. And that was affecting Xcode 12's build process as well. So for anyone listening and who sees this, if you have a project, Xcode 12, using NativeScript latest CLI, and you have a CocoaPod related issue, check if you have a pod file in your project and if you're doing any custom target config overrides, because it's likely you could just remove those overrides and be in a much better shape. That was the case for us internally. Beyond that, we just released 2 core bumps here. 704 NativeScript core was just released just minutes ago. This has a couple nice fixes. Of the biggest one's probably the state picker on iOS 14. There was a subtle change in iOS 14 related to that. A contributor, and I actually don't know his name off the top of my mind. I would have really called him out here, submitted this fix. And we really appreciate it. So that's in 704. There was a subtle thing related to text view color changing as well, and when there were CSS styles involved that went into that. Also this fix for Android transitions, and then a patch there for global event handling that's in core. We also backported the date picker fix for 6.5.19. So if you're on NativeScript 6 and below, and using that series, that latest patch includes that fix as well. Beyond that, we have bumped some more plugins out. So if you've been keeping tabs on that plugin compatibility list, there are some updated there. Localize, for instance, was just bumped out as well. That was the NativeScript Localize plugin. I know some people had mentioned that one. You can use NativeScript Localize. I think it's 4.0, if I'm not mistaken. But that one should be updated now as well. So I can double check it. 5.02. So the 5 series on that is updated for NativeScript 7. This is the NativeScript -localize, and the same fix was actually bumped on the 4 series. So for any NativeScript 6 and below projects, all the NativeScript prefix plugins are generally, for the high use ones, we're working with maintainers and for us ourselves internally too, to keep those series alive where there's backports that are needed. So this included a fix to, it was the bundle name, CF bundle name was being modified by the hooks in that plugin. And if you had a translated app name, it would actually interfere with the build. So that was actually backported, fixed in 4.2.2 for older projects. That fix is included in the 5.0 NativeScript 7 compat as well. So that's it from our side at the moment. You know, I think the highest priority for us right now for sure is Xcode 12 and just finalizing the CLI to have the device build working. Go ahead, Christoph.
Sorry. Hello, Nathan.
Hi.
First of all, I didn't want to interrupt you. So first of all, thanks a lot for the localize plugin. So this enabled me to start with the migration of my project to 7 at the weekend.
Oh, great.
And actually, I have 2 questions regarding this because I got into some trouble. So the first is my project was generated with the schematics package, and it's actually a NativeScript only package with SCSS support. And after I had quite a couple of problems in the migration, I thought, okay, and I will now try to go with the new project and then move from there. And then realized that I was not able to generate a new project with the current schematics package. So at least not for NativeScript only with SCSS support. So my question is there maybe some description available how I could get a configured project or a reference project available, which I could use to see which packages I have to choose, etc.
Yeah, let's look at that. This right here, actually, let me pull it up. I think there's a PR that has some instructions, and actually, I think there's a gist even posted for this. Let me check here. Yeah, so I can share this with you. Have you seen this before, Christoph?
Yes, I've seen this, but this is doesn't solve my problem. So actually, I need it for iOS and Android only, and not a shared project, but just with this style SCSS. So I can generate a project, but it doesn't build afterwards. So I get different errors then.
Are you generating it with this or doing any different options?
So actually, I use this ng new -c like you marked it there, but just without the shared option.
Okay, maybe, in fact, let me share this link on the chat here in Zoom. Grab this link, and if you don't mind posting a comment underneath here with the way that you generated the project, or at least what you're running, and that way I can try it, and I can probably take a look from there.
Yeah, great. So I added an issue already on it, but I can write it on below, so I know where this issue is.
Is it posted on this repo?
Yeah, I think so. Must be from today. So the second from the top.
This one right here.
299. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. In fact, this is perfect. You don't need to comment on that gist. I'll take a look at this, Christoph.
Okay, great. Then thanks a lot for this. And a second question I have is regarding the Firebase plugin. So I was trying to use it together with the OAuth 2 plugin, and this crashes my app. I've sent today a package with 2 examples, demos, to Alex and asked him to transfer it to you as well. So my question would be first, have you got it? And the second question regarding it would also be, are you the one working on this Firebase plugin? So are you the right person to share this project with? So the background I'm asking is simply because the demo, in order to debug it, I need to provide you with access credentials for the OAuth plugin, because you have to log in first, and then when the app comes back, the plugin crashes.
Oh, this is a good. This is a good one, Christoph. This this is the issue you're seeing. Is this the only issue you're seeing, or are you seeing anything else?
No, it's something different. So this is on Android, and actually the problem I have is only on iOS. And
is that one reported here as well?
no, I haven't reported it yet there. So it's just in the email and the NativeScript package I added there with the two demos. So there's actually a old bug which probably might be related to it, but in the past it was possible to have a workaround for it. And now the situation appears, or the bug appears in a different situation. So actually, this OAuth plugin, it opens the web page for login, and when it comes back if you are registered correctly and it comes back, then it breaks. And actually, a similar bug is already present for the 6 series. But here it happens a little bit later. So in the past it was like there seemed to be a structure overwritten in some way. So when getting a reference to the tab view to the view controller of the browser window to open it, then you simply get a null pointer in the past when you asked for it for the first time. So doing a check and asking a second time resolved it, but now you get a pointer at the first time, so this works. But when it comes back, it crashes. Yeah. So in the sources I provided, it's quite easy to see what the problem is, but I have no idea how I can debug this. So I just get a crash and a stack trace, but I have no idea how I can debug it further.
Is that something you can post as another issue up here?
I could do this. So maybe one question first. So did Alex provide you already the sources I sent him?
I have not, Christoph, I've not received anything just yet from you.
Okay.
Let me share my email here as well in the chat, just in case. And there have been an issue reported where multiple plugins that override the main app delegate conflict with each other, and that's
well, this is an easy fix on this one for Android. The one you're talking about for iOS, especially if it's you're using it with Firebase, more than likely there is a delegate conflict. There's a certain order in which you have to handle the delegates when you've got Firebase in play, because Firebase adds a delegate at the moment of import, depending on where that's imported. And then depending on where your project, any other plugins that you're using, if they modify the app delegate, it has to consider the fact that Firebase delegate's in play. So more than likely what you're describing is related to that. I've encountered that before.
Mm-hmm. So would there be kind of workarounds then? How could I solve this? So just registering Firebase at a later point once the software is I'm logged in, or
usually what we do is register Firebase first and then let the overrides occur after Firebase is there. Now, depending on the plugin, you might have to override it a different way. Sometimes it's grabbing the prototype for Firebase's delegate to modify. So it kind of depends a little bit on the way you've got the app set up and at what point you're kind of initializing those things. But I'd be curious if there's a real need to use OAuth 2 with Firebase. Is there, that's a fairly unstandard, I'd say. Most people that are going to use Firebase are just going to use Firebase authentication. Is there a service provider you're using with OAuth 2 above and beyond what you get with Firebase?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm using the OAuth 2 plugin with the Keycloak service, so my own one.
Yes, you can definitely do it. You just need to handle the delegate in a way that's friendly with Firebase. One of the goals that we've had, well, for some time, but certainly we want to start doing a little bit of a refactoring in the Firebase plugin to help Eddie out there. One of which is the delegate handling. We've run into the delegate handling with that plugin for quite a while in different projects, especially under different needs like that. And there's a better way you could hook into the app delegate to allow overrides to be a bit more clear in that way. So Christoph, almost certain that's what you're running into. The delegate, either Firebase is clobbering your delegate from OAuth 2 or the other way around.
So do you know of an example where I could look for a workaround, because I have no idea how I could solve this?
I can show you an example, actually. So let me show you one example here. So this is the Firebase plugin being imported here in this stack. This is setting up a custom app delegate, but the very first thing it does is it actually takes the existing Firebase delegate, it grabs its existing overrides and then further customizes those beyond. This is often what you'd want to do with an existing delegate that's already provided via a plugin, and then allow either custom overrides yourself, or you can probably wire into the plugin in a different way. So like for OAuth 2, we'd probably have to look at how OAuth 2 is wiring into the delegate.
It's under delegate index TS.
Let's see, right here. So that's the delegate itself. And then where is this delegate actually attached?
Oh, good question.
So this sets the config. Yeah, the main thing you'd want to look at is where this delegate's actually attached. That actually might be here. No, that's just setting it up. And I'm not as familiar with this plugin, although I've used it before. I forget the actual wiring for the delegate. I have not used it in combination with Firebase before, so I haven't run into that issue specifically, but let's see.
If you do just a search for application delegate or UI app delegate, I believe.
Yeah, this is just the configuration. It might be in this configure method that's documented here. Let's look at the implementation on that. There it is. So that's where the delegate's wired in. So configure client auth app delegate happens when you call configure TNS OAuth. So this is what you want to keep in mind. So that's definitely what's happening, Christoph. I mean, this is clear as day. Application iOS delegate is also what Firebase does. So Firebase is basically doing this either before or after. One of the two is clobbering, because this one's actually just overriding any existing delegate. So
it's a global, it's a single instance actually then, or does it mean?
It's a single instance, and what we want it to do is actually extend and override existing. So what the fix probably could take place here, although it also could exist in Firebase perhaps. I think Firebase actually does do some checks if there is an existing delegate. Let me just double check. I remember and recall something around that. Add app delegate methods. This is grabbing the app delegate and the prototype itself. Yeah, so I think, yeah, there is a bit of a check here. It's actually, if it's undefined, then it overwrites a new one. Otherwise, it returns the existing. So Firebase has some checks like this. In your project, what I would do, an easy fix is probably to make sure that OAuth 2 is included. Make sure you call configure TNS OAuth first, and then bring in Firebase. So your import to Firebase that hooks up the delegate, you want that to happen after configure TNS OAuth, because this one will initially set the app delegate, and then Firebase should override this delegate and allow both of them to exist together.
So a question regarding this, because I don't only need it at an initial login, but also if I log out later on, open connection to the backend to reconfigure password or something like that. So this wouldn't be a problem here. So if I register the instance here once, then Firebase just doesn't modify it, and the pointers the plugin here has are still valid then, yeah? So both could use it, yeah?
That it should. I would definitely try that though as a first line of action. Definitely try to call configure TNS OAuth from OAuth 2 first, and then import Firebase. And the only other thing you'd probably run into there is whether the overrides that Firebase is doing is affecting your delegate in any way. It shouldn't, but there's always that possibility. Sometimes it can come down to ordering. You know, Firebase right here on this particular method is doing the Firebase messaging, and then it's doing the Facebook if you're using Facebook, for instance. And sometimes that order could affect some other integration with your delegate. But again, I try to call configure TNS OAuth first, then import Firebase and let it do its additions to the delegate and see if that helps. And then from there, I think what it could probably come down to is making OAuth 2 a bit more flexible in that regard. OAuth 2 could probably have a similar check that Firebase does to help situations like that.
Well, this would be great if we could get a clean solution in the near future for this. I mean, it was already in the 6 series, the bug actually, so it will be the same. I'm quite sure about this.
Can you report if that works for you? If you try that today or tomorrow, can you report back on that repo if that worked for you?
Yeah, I will give feedback for this, and also I will also send Alex the sources that he can provide it to you. So I'm not sure what I've sent it to the Nubius address actually in the afternoon. I'm not sure why Alex hasn't got it. So I will try again, and yeah, then maybe you could have a look into this as well.
Sure.
Great. Could you maybe also add your email address and I can directly send it to you?
Yes.
Just so you know, we did get it to our in-studio thing. I just actually assigned that ticket to Nathan Walker. Okay,
great. So it looks like it did come through, Christoph.
It comes through. Okay, great. Thanks.
Let's see. In-app browser is another one I just updated. So if anyone out there had been waiting on that one, there is a PR posted there. It's this one here. I don't think he's merged it yet, but this one. These are the updates. I was considering publishing this temporarily under in-studio scope for those that need it. Although he had posted an update, I think 9 days ago. So we'll probably give him another couple days and see if he can get that merged and out. But yeah, if anyone is relying on this one, this is one that's ready for NativeScript 7 now once this goes in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it from us today. Everyone, again, appreciate.
Nathan, is it too late to ask another question?
Oh, sure. No. Hey, Diego.
Hi. So I have, well, it's actually 2 questions. The first one would be, so what's the status on NativeScript 7 regarding well, all the plugins that are out there? I don't know, say NativeScript UI collection view, or I don't know, the rat list view, or maybe one of the 80 eddies plugins, all of them. So like, is it like, are they all backwards compatible? And if they are not, is there like an easy thing that you have to do, such as, I don't know, modify the main TS file and blah, blah, blah? Or is it usually like a case-by-case scenario?
Have you seen this blog post, Diego?
Let me check. Where is it? Wait.
Is my screen still sharing? Looks like it is. It's we're keeping this.
Still sharing.
Okay, Diego, this is a blog post we posted that we're keeping updated. pretty regularly. I won't say up to the minute or even necessarily up to the day, but we are updating this as we update some plugins, and definitely you can always refer to this. So all the NativeScript UI Suite plugins as mentioned here are updated. All those latest versions are NativeScript 7 compatible, every single one of them. The material plugins as well. This is really intended to be probably ultimately a finite list of those. At least we'll probably keep updating this for several months, you know, as we get notified that other authors update them or find out ourselves, as well as update them ourselves too. So definitely refer to this if you're wondering that question. As far as backwards compatible, NativeScript 6, so to answer that question, usually the prior version will always be NativeScript 6 or it's scoped. So the main answer there is if you don't see a NativeScript 7 compatible plugin for something that you're looking at or working with, check this list first, see if you see it mentioned here, and you might see it mentioned scope. So some of these were NativeScript dash prefix. The general delineation is that for a lot that we are scoping, that's kind of NativeScript 7 and beyond. It allows the latest NPM tags that exist for both. So that way, even for existing NativeScript 6 or older projects out there, they can continue using NativeScript dash plugins that may have a caret or maybe using even the latest tag itself, and it will still work. That way, NativeScript 6 and below will always be those NativeScript dash plugins. Generally, for those that we've scoped, those will generally always be NativeScript 7 and beyond. It's really meant to establish the new JS standard direction forward. But it's not unanimously the case. You know, generally with the community, people are updating plugins as they see fit, and they're going to certainly keep the names for their own reasons. And so those names may just have bumped versions. But we're trying to match those here too. So as we get notified, we're trying to update this list for what's 7 compatible. There probably are more plugins that are compatible than what we have here too. I don't think we've done a thorough dive yet as far as checking with the comments, because I know some people have commented that some are already updated. So we'll try to do that periodically, kind of go through the comments, and if there were mentions of plugins out there that are updated, we'll try to have those updated in this list, so it is a good reference for that.
Yeah, it's better to just let them keep coming on demand. Usually the community responds fast to the breaking changes. So in terms of the roadmap and timeline, so for example, we have a schedule of releasing the app in 1 month approximately. So is it just better to stick with the 6th version and then, well, I saw one comment that said, we have on a roadmap to update to NativeScript but 7, but at the end of the year. Is that like a good mark for you, do you think?
It totally depends on your plugins. I mean, we're using NativeScript 7 on client projects ourselves, you know, that may have plugins that are on this list. Totally fine. It really is up to you and your team in terms of plugins, but I would use plugins as the guide on that. If there's a significant chunk of plugins that you're using that you don't see on this list, don't see mentioned in the comments that's updated, then I would say definitely hold where you are. There's no reason to put yourself in pain and waiting for a plugin, especially if it's one that you're relying on. And certainly if you're in a production cycle where you're iterating and you're pushing and you're meeting demands there's no real reason. Definitely do it when you see the plugins that you need are updated. And if you're anxious to update and there's a plugin out there that hasn't updated yet, certainly, you know, post an issue. There probably already is an issue reported for that, but certainly can always ping the author. And just like we did for in-app browser, like I just updated that one yesterday. So even in projects ourselves that we come across that need plugins, we are also probably, you know, updating them and posting PRs ourselves. But yeah, I mean, my general recommendation is if you see the plugins that are on here and those are the plugins you're using in your iterative cycle in production, then it's definitely safe to update. I mean, it's a good place to be if you want to be just in a good position with JS standards and kind of moving forward for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and the last thing would be in terms of the current implementation of the list view, the official list view UI item. So, like I think I found an issue. I think I will report it, but I just wanted to mention it in case, like maybe you can give me just a quick overview. So when you're trying to use multiple template selectors, basically if you change the data while it is not on the screen, the application actually crashes. And there had been some issues, but they had been closed. So I don't know if by any chance you have any experience with that.
Are you referring to rad list view?
No, the normal list view, the one
The
that
normal
I
list
use.
view?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not aware of issues like that on the normal list view. I'm more familiar with rad list view and how to make that one really fly. You know, this may apply to list view as well in general. I mean, most reusable row components with NativeScript are really designed for observable array. The reason for that is observable array has an event bus system built into it. That is the observable base class that's in NativeScript core itself. I mean, that's basically an event bus system at the very core level of NativeScript. Radless view in particular is designed to work in optimally with that out of the box, because it in fact does get notified of events when the collection changes. That's actually what causes Radless view to work quite nicely with observable array. If you use a JavaScript array with Radless view, you're going to see things like you're talking about, because it's really just not designed to optimize with a regular JavaScript array. It really relies on the event bus system in core to do what it needs to do.
Okay.
My suggestion generally is with list view, you could try using observable array, see if things start to work a bit better.
Okay, and if they don't, then I'll report the issue.
Definitely report it. Yeah.
Okay, and then I mean, I am going to report it even if the workaround works. But the thing is that it had a workaround, but you had to modify like the core, one of the prototypes of the core implementation. And I was wondering, because I just learned about these prototype new things, like what I showed you earlier today, that I substituted something through the prototype, the date picker in specific. I was wondering if, you think that could apply to the list view, and is that like a good workaround method, or is there something I am not aware of that tells me, hey, you shouldn't do override of the methods with the prototype on TypeScript and Angular and NativeScript for this reason?
I mean, generally, you shouldn't have to do much with prototypes. I mean, I'd say that's a general code smell just in general. I mean, if you're doing prototype overrides, you're probably misunderstanding something with the API.
No. This is the first one, with the one that I showed you with the date picker, and it's fixed now with the 6.5.19. But that one, we tried to fix it with overrides, but without the prototype-based overrides.
Oh, yeah.
There was simply no way.
That was just a fix that was needed in core, which is why we published that out.
So the thing is that the list view issue that I saw is very similar to this one, like the way to fix it, which is why I was like, okay, now I need to ask this now.
Yeah, just please report the list view issue if you find that observable array does not make your situation better.
Okay. I'll do it even if it works. For the people who are using normal JS arrays with the async pipe in Angular, such as we do.
Yeah. If you're tapping on prototype for anything, generally that's something that should be fixed in core, or it's something that just needs to be added to core. Like this time date picker was really just something that needed some iOS 14 compliance for.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's just something that just needs to be added to core. You know, you shouldn't have to be doing prototype stuff. Certainly if you're in a bind in a production scenario and you got to get something out and that fixes it, I mean, by all means. But I mean, generally speaking, you know, the core needed that fixed.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Nathan. That was all.
Nice. Okay. Well, listen, appreciate it, everyone. We'll hope to post more on that Xcode 12 issue with some finalizations, hopefully tomorrow or Friday. We're shooting to have that wrapped up. this week, and hope that everyone is able to develop with Xcode 12 against a simulator, at least right now, with the RC that we have out there. So, you know, if you have trouble with that, please ping on the issue, because that RC should get you unblocked in that case. But other than that, we'll talk again next week, and take care, everyone.